By the end of this video, you should have the confidence, the resources, and the tools to help you land your next internship. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jade Walters, and I'm the founder of the 9th Semester, an early career and post-grad life survival guide that is aimed at helping you navigate that transition from college to career. I have been talking about this YouTube journey for a while, and I feel like this is the perfect video to where I can really dive into that. And I want to answer one of the most commonly asked questions that I get, which is how to land an internship. So if you're someone interested in landing a fall, spring, or summer internship, no matter the year, this video is aimed at helping you get there. So a little bit about me. I started the 9th semester as a way to create that resource that I was looking for when I was navigating my post-grad journey 5 years ago. So I have really been very passionate about helping next-gen professionals figure out what exactly they want to do in a career, the right tools and resources to help them get there, and of course have a big sister in their corner to help them get there. As someone who has really been studying the early career job market, the tools and the tips that I'm about to share today have been highly vetted out. It has been tried and true, and I really just want to help you get there to land your first internship or maybe the next internship that is going to really help propel you in your career. So this video is going to be broken up into 5 main categories: mindset and alignment, the search, aka where to look, the application materials and your positioning, how to stand out, including my 3-part framework, and of course interviewing. So step 1, and the most important one, is mindset and alignment. Whether you are starting 10 weeks before the recruitment process or maybe you have less than 30 days to land that internship, I think one of the best things you can do when you're navigating this search is to have the right mindset. And this means not having that doom and gloom, not having that comparison mindset of thinking, oh my gosh, it's too late, or how comes they're getting this opportunity and I'm not. A lot of the opportunities that you're going to receive and experience in your early career, and this is speaking from experience, comes from having a healthy level of delusion as well as having that realistic mindset. So one thing that can really help you with managing expectations when it comes to your mindset and alignment is to knowing the recruitment timeline for your industry. So one that I really love is this one from Princeton. They have one for both the internship job timeline search as well as the post-grad full-time rotational program search. And what it does is it tells you, depending on your industry, kind of like that common period of when they open their applications and interviewing as well. So I encourage you to look at this timeline and find your industry. And obviously you may not find like a very specific one, like say you're like a super duper niche type of marketing. Just look at the marketing one or look at the business. Look at whichever category is closest to like the main category of your industry. And one task that I have for you when you're looking at this recruitment timeline is to consider, okay, say for example, you're saying that application window for yours starts in August. I want you to now look at that window and put that window of time frame from the beginning to the end according to the chart and put that on your calendar. And then once you put that on your calendar, you're knowing, okay, every month I'm going to make it a habit to check and see when internships are opening up in my industry. And another way for you to go even deeper than that, now that you know your recruitment timeline, I want you to find 10 to 15 companies that you are interested in. Once you have those companies that you're interested in, I want you to go on their career pages, whether it is the one for the whole company or maybe you're lucky and they have one for early career focus, and try to find when they tend to drop applications for their industry. If they're open already, you're set, you're good, start to gather your application materials. But if not, say it's August and they made a note on their website that they don't open applications until October, I want you to continuously check in and make sure when those applications drop, and then of course add those dates and timelines into your calendar. I feel like this timeline really helps with your mindset and your alignment because you kind of like know exactly when applications are going to drop. You're not in this weird limbo of like, I don't know when they're going to drop, I don't know what to do. And if that means you're regularly checking every week to make sure that applications are live, that's what you have to do to stay sane. I want you to remember that you are not behind. I don't care what anything you're seeing on LinkedIn. I don't care how many of your peers are already getting internships. I never want you to underestimate how quickly things can change for you. You can have no internship opportunities today, and a month from now, you're deciding between 3 offers. So never underestimate how quickly things can change for you. Now, step 2 is finding the right opportunities, aka the search. One of the best things you can do for yourself on your search is to have an open-mindedness. I feel like there's so many times where students are focused on prestige. It's either FANG companies or nothing. And and you're missing out a lot on a lot of great opportunities just because you're only focused on the Fortune 500s. I'm someone, I have worked at large companies. I've also worked at small companies. At the end of the day, it was valuable work experience that I was able to add to my resume and to my portfolios. And I think something that's not talked about enough is that not everyone gets their career started at some large Big Four, some large Fortune 500. Sometimes your really first internship is at a startup or at a smaller organization. So have an open mindedness to the companies that you are applying to, because at its core, are you chasing prestige or are you chasing experience? So I highly recommend looking into a wide range of opportunities. If you know, you know. I have a mega list of over 70 job boards of where you can find paid early career opportunities. And one thing about me is paid. You will very rarely catch me sharing unpaid early career opportunities unless like you're kind of getting something in exchange for it. So I highly recommend checking out this job board list that I have on my blog, on all my channels, and finding the right ones that work for you. And maybe you're narrowing it down to 3 to 5 that you really like, and these are the ones that you're regularly checking for opportunities on. But these will help expose you to different opportunities, whether it's at larger companies or smaller companies. And another great place for you to find opportunities would be on LinkedIn. A way that I usually find them is I can type in keywords, whether it's hiring, then you enter the season and then the year, or maybe you're like hiring marketing interns or hiring engineering interns. And from there, you can kind of filter it by post, and you can find posts that are coming directly from those hiring managers that are related to the opportunities that you're looking for. The third step on finding the right internship for you is getting clear on what you're looking for and your positioning. You will never, ever catch me telling you to mass apply. I think mass applying is a waste of your time as an applicant. I think that the idea of more applications can lead to more roles. It doesn't make sense if you're not clear on what you're looking for. I have a really good video on my TikTok about how to niche down on your job search and get very clear about your unique candidate point of view. And your UCP, aka your unique candidate point of view, is essentially, what is the persona that you are going to have when you're entering your job search? For example, when I was a senior in college, I had made that transition from STEM to marketing. So my UCP, aka unique candidate point of view, was that yes, my major was in maternal and child health, but I had a wide breadth of marketing experience from being a campus rep for Bumble and Tinder, as well as other campus opportunities. I was also a creator, so I was diving into influencer marketing, and then I was involved in marketing roles on my campus. So I kind of packaged all that up into my story. So I highly recommend checking out that video of mine where I kind of break down how to identify your own UCP. So once you check out that video, please come back here and comment what your UCP is. The clearer you are upfront about what your unique candidate point of view is and what you're looking for, this is going to allow you to adjust your resume accordingly, know the correct stories to mention in your interviews, as well as knowing the right projects and experience to highlight into your portfolio. You want to have a very tunnel view vision of who you are as a candidate, so there's no confusion or ambiguity about what you're looking for in your job search, especially as someone who, maybe you're doing some pivots and maybe your experience is all over the place. But knowing your UCP allows you to craft and create the right story that you will share in your interviews, your resume, your application materials. Another thing too is going to allow you to get super specific on what you're searching for. So say for example, you are interested in marketing roles, but your background is in influencer marketing. Specifically, maybe you're really good at doing beauty and fashion influencer marketing. The more clear and specific you are in what you're looking for, it's going to help you on your search. You're not going to search up marketing internships. You're going to look up influencer marketing internships with a focus on beauty and tech. So the fourth one is actually going to be interview prep. I'm going to come back to my 3-part framework for standing out in a second. But the fourth one, and I think this is also a very important one, is prepping for your interviews. Since my junior year of college, when it came to interviewing, I kind of have like a very detailed approach to it. So I always come to my interview with at least 2 to 3 pages of notes. These are notes that I've taken on the company, the role, their mission, any questions that I may have about the position, about the team. And as someone who's coming with all of this prep and this research, it has definitely helped my confidence, because I'm not just like pulling things out of my brain to say. I have my notes right in front of me, and I also prep before. Like, I kind of treat it like studying for a quiz. Like, yes, I'll keep my notes with me on the side at the interview, but I'll also like memorize some of it in my head. And I think when it comes to interviewing prep, something that is really important is coming up with your list of core stories. So I encourage you to create an interview prep doc that includes notes on the role, the company, your interviewer, really good post-interview questions. If you know, I wrote a free interview prep guide about how to master and ace your interviews. You can grab that for free with the link in my bio. And I pretty much break down the before, during, and after of how to succeed in an interview. But another important thing that you can include on your interview prep doc are a list of your core stories. So there's a creator, Mike Pedito. I'm gonna put him on the screen. I always butcher his last name, so sorry. And he essentially came up with the term of having core stories for your interview. So, when it comes to behavioral interviews, you are gonna be asked the same behavioral questions such as, tell us about a time this, or XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes on the spot, you kind of blank on what you've ever done in your entire career. But what I like to do is I have my 4 go-to core stories that I'm always sharing. The reality is, if you're having all these different interviews and you're sharing the same few stories, they're not gonna know. Who's gonna know? And I feel like the more that you tell the same story, the better you are at telling that story, having the minute details. And of course, in an interview, you want to make sure that it's very nice and concise. So have your go-to core stories. Like, look up the most commonly asked behavioral questions and curate your core stories accordingly. Something else that I love to do, and maybe I'll do a whole completely different video on interviewing, is when it comes to determining how I'm gonna study for an interview, with the rise in tools like ChatGPT and Gemini, literally you can throw the job description and ask, chat based on this upcoming interview for this role, and then enter the name of the role as well as the job description and the person I'm interviewing with. So I'll put their title, generate 5 to 10 questions of what they may ask me in this interview. And there's definitely been times where I will ask it to do that, and it's giving me questions that came up in my interview, because low key, the interviews are also using chat to come up with the interview questions. So, you gotta be smarter. Think smarter, not harder. Another thing, don't be afraid to have your notes at your interviews. Like, I've never really been in an interview where anyone has ever questioned why I had notes. I feel like me coming with notes is like, okay, babes, I'm prepared. I have questions. I have notes. I also take notes during an interview, because sometimes there's some things where it's like, I just want to know, I want to remember this. So don't be afraid or feel awkward to have your interview notes with you. So step 5, and also one of the most commonly asked questions I get, is how to stand out in the application process. I've been asked this question many, many times over the years, and sometimes I kind of blank because I'm like, girl, I don't know. Actually, no, not that I don't know, but sometimes I blank because it is such a very layered and nuanced question, and it really differs for everyone. I have stood out before in interview applications by sliding the DMs of the recruiter and expressing my interest with a really good message. Or like for my first postgrad job at TikTok, I created a TikTok resume, slid in the DMs of one of the recruiters that led to an interview, and then I led to a job offer. It depends on your strategy, it depends on your industry, it depends on so many different factors. But I feel like I have really narrowed it down to a 3-step framework that I am really proud of. The first part of this framework is timing and alignment. When it comes to the job search, I feel like the more specific you are about what you're looking for and what you are able to provide, the better you're going to be at finding the right opportunities for you and finding the right roles that are going to really help propel you in your career. And it really comes down to understanding what your UCP and your unique candidate point of view is. So I have a really good video on my TikTok where I talk about how to really niche down on your job search and get specific about, what are your skills and experiences and what you uniquely bring to the table, and also the type of roles that you should be targeting in your career. At this point in my career, I definitely work in marketing, which is like the main thing, but my unique candidate point of view when I apply for stuff is that I'm a marketer who specifically specializes in employer branding, recruitment marketing strategies that help early talent teams hire and attract Gen Z candidates. So it's more than just being a marketer, but my thing is like the thing that helps me stand out is that I really understand Gen Z. I understand how to recruit with them. I understand how to work with them. So if I'm applying for an organization that they desperately want to understand what it's like to work with Gen Z early talent, they're going to want to look for that expertise, or what they usually call them in the industry is at unicorn, and I'm at unicorn. So it has definitely helped me in my career so far of being that Gen Z marketing expert. So when it comes to knowing what your UCP is, that's just going to be that persona that you have, that you carry throughout your applications, your interview, as well as your portfolio. So essentially, this is how you're going to show up in your application materials and your interviewing. Step 2 is turning curiosity into action. I think it is amazing to have a ton of questions about what's next in your career, what you want to do, but I think it's always important to take it a step further of knowing, okay, these are the questions that I have. Let me find those answers that I need. So don't just ask the questions and just like hope that someone gets back to you. Ask the questions and do your research. For me, when I started the 9th semester, I couldn't really find a platform like this that was specifically targeted towards early career professionals. So I created it. I turned that curiosity into action. Even with trying to figure out what I wanted to do and, knowing that my role now in my industry is employer branding, it took a lot of trial and error for me to even find the name of this industry. So I asked questions and I turned it into action, but then I also was just like trying things. Like I started with the 9th semester, and eventually I found a role where they told me that they were looking for someone that was an employer branding consultant, and I was like, oh snap, that's me. That is literally what I do. So, you know, turn any curiosity that you have into action, whether maybe you're curious to know, like, okay, what if I applied for this role in a very unique way? Like, I applied and then I create like a custom company specific portfolio, and then I look for the recruiters and I slide in their DMs and I say, like, turn that curiosity of wondering, okay, what if I did this, or how about this, and actually see what happens, because you never know. Like, honestly, doing all of that, next thing you know, you have a job, all because you were curious to know what will happen if I do that. And this also kind of feeds into the third one, which is doing what others aren't willing to do. I'm not gonna hold y'all. The job market, the job search, it is so hard. It is not easy, and a lot of times it can just feel exhausting. There are times where people are feeling this exhaustion on their job search to where they kind of get lazy with their applications, and, you know, they're just submitting in half-assed things, or they're not putting in their best foot forward. I'm not afraid to admit I've been guilty of that. Sometimes I'm like, yo, forget this application, and I just submit anything. But the times where I really go above and beyond, and I'm doing the things that others aren't willing to do, you're gonna stand out naturally, because you're literally gonna be the only applicant to have done that. Sometimes people aren't even willing to do the bare minimum on their job search. So if you do the bare minimum and more, you really might just get that job just because you actually went above and beyond. So doing what others aren't willing to do, that can look like creating custom application materials, that can look like networking your way to an opportunity, that can look like shooting your shot on LinkedIn with a post, like making sure everyone see, okay, I made this custom portfolio. If you know anyone who works at this company, tag them, send it your way. Something that I've done recently when I really went above and beyond, I was applying for this role at this food tech company, and I created a company specific portfolio, really tailoring my experience to the exact role, to the company. And ironically, I had did like a campus ambassadorship for them when I was an undergrad, so like even showing like, no, I really understand the product and I really understand the service that you are offering. Here's how I exemplified that in the past. And I actually made it all the way to the end of the interview process. And even though I didn't get the role, I know that I moved forward because I took that initiative to do what others weren't willing to do. So if you're someone who's currently on a job search, where you're looking for an internship or a full-time role, and you're questioning the ways on how to stand out, these are the 3-step frameworks that I have seen work for myself, work for others. I also have a ton of content on my TikTok, Instagram, you know, a few videos on here where I kind of break down, okay, what does that search look like? How do you show up and stand out in other ways? So definitely check that out. And if you like this content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know, because like I said, I like making these videos, and I like to yap, and I like to put y'all on game about how to land amazing early career opportunities. So hopefully this helps.